And good afternoon or evening, depending on where you are. My name is Dante St James. I'll be taking you through this particular little journey through how you can help protect your social media a little more than perhaps you have been. In fact, the whole social media protection thing has become such a massive part of my week that I thought it'd actually be a good way to turn this into some kind of preventative measure to help people to better manage their social media so that they don't get to the point where they have to go onto Facebook support groups and all that to try and get it all back. It's actually been such a big problem this year with people losing access to their accounts through hacking that there's a whole lot of stuff going on within Facebook to try and help educate people on how to better take care of their access to systems and practice a little bit of what they call cyber or password hygiene, and certainly would be good to see a whole lot less of these accounts getting hacked. So let's get underway. This is brought to you by Business Station and the Australian Small Business Advisory Services Digital Solutions Program in conjunction with Regional Development Australia Brisbane Service in Queensland and Treaty Business Consulting servicing the Northern Territory. This will be available on YouTube a couple of days after this. So I think by about Wednesday, it should be available on YouTube to watch all over again for you to share with any friends you may want to pass it on to as well. If you are watching this on YouTube right now, please do comment if you've got any questions below, or subscribe. If you're watching live on Zoom, you can comment in the Q&A if you've got questions along the way, or through the Zoom webinar chat window, and I'll be able to answer some questions as we're going along as well. Won't be able to do it live if you're on YouTube, unfortunately, but if you do leave those messages below, we will be able to come back and answer those for you at another time. The hard truth is that this is horrible to say this. I feel terrible saying it, but it's actually not Facebook's fault if your account is hacked. It's actually yours. It's actually poor password hygiene, poor cybersecurity practices that leads to these things. And what I'm going to show you is some of the ways that these people are getting in and how you can stop them from getting in the first place, which will be a massive relief because let's face it, so many of us are running our businesses based on activity on Facebook these days. So to think that someone could remove all your access to your business is actually a horrible thing to consider, but it is actually happening. So let's see what some of this means. What we're going to cover today is a bit about the damage. I've got some specific small businesses, real small businesses that I've dealt with who have suffered some horrific losses when their social media was hacked. If it didn't scare you before, it may scare you now. We're going to look at how it happens, those three main, what we call vectors that the hackers use to get control of your social media channels. And the biggest one obviously being Facebook, because it's so integrated with so much of our lives. We're also going to look at how you can secure your own social media and also the things that lead into your social media, more about that to come, and securing those around you, particularly your staff and those who are people who are helping you, like your other admins on your Facebook pages and your groups as well. My name's Dante St James. As I said earlier, I'm an accredited digital advisor and trainer, not just with the ASBAS Digital Solutions Program, but also with Facebook's Blueprint program, their Boost with Facebook program, the Google Digital Springboard program, a lot of programs there. I've got a Bachelor and Masters of Information Technology and Business Information Systems from the University of New South Wales. I work with the New Business Assistance Program, the NEAS program across Australia, Australian Industry and Defence Network, Australian Computer Society. And one that I've been really interested to work in this year has been the government's Stay Smart Online program, which is all about bringing cybersecurity into plain English so everyday people can understand what some of the things are they can do to ensure the security of their business, in the very least online. So the damage, what are we exactly looking at? Well, you look at it in terms of loss of access. Now, when you lose access to your Facebook account or your Instagram account or your LinkedIn account or any accounts whatsoever online, we're talking about blocked access to your business pages. When you lose access to a business page, you're losing access to a lot of the way that a lot of people make their money online. Let's face it, there's really two big gorillas in the room when it comes to all things digital, and that's Google for the search basis of it, and then Facebook when it comes to the social media and the more intimate connections we all have with each other. But blocking access to your business page, which is what a lot of these hackers are doing, is blocking access to you being able to communicate with your customers, be able to answer customer service questions, the ability to be able to place ads, which is a massive one as well. You can't boost posts because you can't even put posts on there. And also talking about blocked access to your actual personal profile. This one can be particularly heartbreaking. I've had that happen twice to me on Facebook before, once in 2010, I think it was, and again in 2018. And how these came about was that I was hacked, first of all. The first time was somebody set up a duplicate account of mine and then claimed that my account was the fake one. Now, I didn't act quick enough, and so Facebook shut down my account. By the time I came back to go, oh, something's wrong, I'd taken a bit too long. Now they're a little bit better with that kind of particular kind of attack these days. There's a lot more that you have to go through to prove that you are who you say you are, particularly if the algorithm suspects that somebody's trying to be you, particularly if they're using your photos or photos that are of you. The AI really knows how to recommend facial features now, and it's very good at recommending that it needs to check to see if there's a duplication there, particularly if it goes, that's a photo of Dante and that's a photo of Dante, that's the same person, that shouldn't be happening. Having blocked access to your profile, but it was particularly heartbreaking, I guess, in 2018 for me, because I lost access to all the travel that I did, particularly in 2014 to 2017, when I was traveling a lot for work and did a lot of international travel as well. I quite stupidly decided that Facebook was the safest place to store all my photos from those journeys. So my trips to America, the South Pacific and Southeast Asia and New Zealand were all lost. All those photos lost because I didn't keep them anywhere else. I've now only got 3 photos from that particular period of time, which was heartbreaking. Now, I'm not a parent and I'm not someone who has a lot of family photos. So thankfully I wasn't losing things of, existential value when it comes to losing 4 years of your photos of your kids. I can't even comprehend how that will feel. But for me, just losing that felt like a great big chunk of my life was taken away from me. I may have the memories, but it would be nice to be able to flick through those moments that I had standing on the top of the Rockefeller Center in New York, looking at the skyline and going, wow, this is amazing. I'll just have to rely on other people's photos at the same spot instead. Blocked access to your ads account is a particularly annoying one. When they've blocked access to this, it means that you might be able to get into your business page, you might be able to get into your profile, but you can't get into your ads account because someone has done something that's got you banned or blocked from being able to act on that, to make ads or to boost your posts online. So these are 3 particular ways you can lose access on something like Facebook or LinkedIn even, and also even on some other profiles like your TikTok, you can lose access to these things as well. Your loss of reputation is perhaps one of the most cutting ones, because when these hackers do get into your accounts, they quite often will post their material on your business page. There's nothing more disempowering than watching your brand, your page that you put years and years of work into, and watching someone else try to sell a dodgy product on there or try to pretend that they're you selling something else. And they're usually pyramid schemes or schemes that are designed to rip people off. They're just nasty, nasty things. So think about that, I guess, before you think, oh yes, maybe I should, relax a bit more about my cybersecurity. In the case of loss of reputation, the hacker often will send messages to the people in your contact list, your page followers. That can be horrific because not only are they posting things to your page, at least when they're posting to your page, it's a really limited audience, but they're posting to people who are following you. Oof. That is just nasty. So to have that happen can be a nasty, nasty attack on your reputation and on the trust that people have in your particular brand or business. And then finally, if a hacker runs up ads in your account, you could wake up to a nasty $3,000 ad bill from Facebook the next morning and go, what the heck has happened? What's happening? And my ad account's being blocked. I can't even get in there to try and take care of this, because usually what they're trying to advertise when they do take over your ad account is things that are not legally allowed on the Facebook platform. What that causes is it'll run for about 5 minutes, get all these people scammed, and then the platform notices what it is and shuts it down and shuts your ad account down with it. So in the meantime, your name of your business has been the the name that's been going out on these boosted and sponsored posts. That's not the way you really want to be. You do not want this to happen to you. Trust me, it is the most horrible thing to watch a business go through it. And I've had too many one-to-ones this year with people who have had it happen. And it's just heartbreaking to watch that loss of control over their message, that loss of reputation, and I guess too, the loss of momentum with their business, because you can't keep posting on your page. You can't answer those customer queries as they're coming through. You can't do the things that you normally would do when people are trying to reach out to you and you won't reach back. It only makes you look bad, and your existing ads, they stop. So your sales funnels you've been setting up, they break. They're all over. They're done. And this is I guess the nastiest side that you can think of when it comes to when someone breaks into something as important to you as your whole sales process and your whole marketing and online presence. It's so much based around our social media profiles and pages these days, even more so than our websites. And whilst, we seem to have managed to get around the whole getting hacked of the website thing, getting hacked in our social media is just happening. I manage a support group on Facebook that's all about, people getting the most out of their businesses on the Facebook family of apps. And the problem with that is that every day there's another person who's been hacked, another person who's lost access to their page or access to their ads account. And it's heartbreaking because there's not a lot you can do about it, because these things were done with the correct username and the correct password. And these hackers were able to go in and act completely as those businesses in the most legitimate way possible, because things hadn't been set up by that person who owned that business to be more secure. And we'll cover some of that. Now, an example is my friend Jane, who runs Regency Bathrooms here in the Northern Territory. She had a hacked account. The access was removed to that hacked account. The access to her page was removed. It's been sitting now it's actually over 4 months. It's about 5.5 months now. It's been sitting in review with Facebook. They have answered her and said, yes, we're now reviewing it. We're in the process of looking at that. In the meantime, she's lost access to 70% of her new business that gets gained via Facebook. That was what she was doing. Now, that number there was before COVID and before all the stimulus programs that came about. Thankfully, she's been able to take advantage of those stimulus programs like home building grants and home renovation grants that are happening in the Northern Territory. But her old sales funnel now to bring in new stuff over a period of time through the Facebook family of apps, through Facebook, through Instagram, through Messenger, is now completely smashed to smithereens. She's not able to get that through. And she estimates that loss of revenue to her business is around $700,000 this year. Thankfully, she's been able to make up for that with stimulus stuff that's been coming through. She's been using other mediums to get in there, and she has fought back now and set up a new Facebook page and a new Facebook presence for herself so she can recreate that. But what she's done is lost all the momentum of the previous data that went into her ad sales funnel, the previous contacts that she had following her, the fans that would do so much good work at spreading the word for her as a sole trader, as a single operator, all on her own, running this as a project manager of bathroom renovations using lots of local contractors. You can imagine what a $700,000 loss to her would do. Now, thankfully, yes, she has had that COVID stimulus stuff come in. Imagine where she'd be if she had that extra $700,000 though this year. It'd be a very different conversation she'd be having. These guys called Life Hubber in Melbourne, they got in contact with me through a Facebook support group. They had a hacked account. Their access was removed to their page. They have regained access to their account. So Chris, who runs that particular page, has regained access to his profile and to his page. He was really fortunate he was able to get onto this really super fast. But the hacker posted a whole lot of illegal ads, and the ads account has now been banned. Now, Chris used to run all of his marketing through Facebook ads. Facebook and Instagram ads were his lifeblood. Before COVID, that was a way of getting people into the Life Hub gym and signing up for memberships. During COVID, it was a way of getting people to do the at-home workouts that he was so good at arranging. When these hackers got in, they spent $7,000 of ad spend on stuff which was not meant to go online. When Facebook caught up with it and turned it off, they also turned off the access to his ads account. Now that ads account access is still not being restored, but he's now been able to find a way around it. But in the meantime, in that 2 to 3 months that he lost an estimated $220,000 of business that's attributed to what he normally would get through there in that period of time. Yes, these might be businesses that seem to be a lot bigger than yours, and the losses may be a lot bigger than yours, but these are people just like you and I. Both of them sole traders, not companies, not corporations, sole traders, just like you, just like me, people who are just trying to make a buck by creating a business through an idea and a belief that they're doing the right thing in life. And then facing these problems they never expected to face because they thought they were fine. They thought that their things were safe. They thought that their email was safe, which brings us, I guess, to how it happens, how these hackers are able to get into these accounts seemingly so easy. 87% of hacked social media accounts are accessed via your email. You think about it. What is the email address you have associated with your Facebook account? What is the email address you have associated with your LinkedIn account, with your Google account, with your Instagram login? All these things usually go through the one email address, right? So when you think about it, you go, well, if I got access to that one email account, I probably got access. I've got the keys to the kingdom. I can verify anything I like, change passwords, change access, all because it gets approved through that one email account, right? That's the case that most people have. And if the setup of that particular email account isn't particularly secure, then you can see how hackers can run absolutely rampant with your information and change all these things. It starts with poor password practices, people containing passwords that have the names of their pets, their children, the amount of Brook 123s and Taylor hash that I've seen is just ridiculous. Names of password suburbs, people just with password 123. I've had 2 of those this year. Now, if I've only come through 2 of them, you can imagine the millions of people that are using passwords just like this. They're getting these details from previous data breaches from everything from Under Armour and the MyFitnessPal app on the phone, which it contained a whole lot of passwords and email addresses and phone numbers that were able to then be matched. And what these hackers will do will get data from one breach and match it with data from another breach. They might get the password from that one, the email address from that one, boom, they've got the information. They've got the keys to the kingdom. How do you know about this? You know about it by going to haveibeenpwned.com. You can see the link on there. I've got a much better version of that so you can see on screen much more clearly. You put your email address in there. It'll tell you whether your email address has been linked to a data breach somewhere. Now, I know of my 5 different email addresses I'm using. All of them have been in some way or shape or form shown in some kind of data breach. So that particular site, which was originally built and run by an Australian cybersecurity expert called Troy Hunt, is excellent. This is the thing that I go into every week. This is a hygiene process I go through every single week to see if something has happened to any of my email addresses, whether something else is being hacked. Now, we're not talking about you being hacked here. We're talking about a company that you've given information to that could have been hacked. So you could have a username and a password for flybys. You could have a username and password for your doctor's surgery or for a federal government site. Any of these sites could be involved in some kind of data breach. Now, usually the actual password you use isn't part of that breach that's come through. They use a thing called hashes, or they just use like encryption that ties your password into a long line of code that's completely indecipherable by a human. The problem is, though, that if one of those data breaches happens to have the password in an unhashed state, which means it's just plain text, they can read it straight off their screen, and they happen to match that to an email address that is also in there that you use on other things, then the chances are they've found the keys to the kingdom again. They've got the keys to your house, and they're ready to walk in and run rampant through it. The other way is that there's no multi-factor authentication. What is a multi-factor authentication? Saying there's no extra checking when someone tries to log in from some unknown device or some new location that you normally wouldn't come in through. I know that when somebody from Armenia or from Romania or from Lithuania or from Iran or from North Korea tries to log into my Google account, I get it saying, hey, someone's trying to get into your account from this country. Is it you? And I look at it and go, well, of course it's not. I'm not in Armenia. I'm not in Azerbaijan. I'm not in Kazakhstan. And I'm able to block that off from the source and go, yep, definitely not me. Thank you for blocking them off. Multi-factor authentication we'll go into in a second, how you can really easily add that to your cybersecurity. It's where you're able to particularly use something that's extra to just your username and your password. And it can be in the format of a second password, a second email address that backs it up. It could be through an authenticator app on your mobile phone or through something like an SMS sent to your phone number as well. So your poor password practices, to break that down a bit more, yes, we're talking about those really very common, really poorly thought out passwords. Jesus123, admin1, password with the @ thinking, oh, if I replace the @ I'll never guess what that is. Any sort of thing like that is so easily being able to be brute forced, which is just a way of hackers basically just trying again and again and again and again and again until the system tells it, no, you can't try anymore. Using names of kids and pets, the Taylors, the Lilies, the Logan homes, the suburbs, any of those sort of combinations are terrible for using as passwords. And using kids and pets is so big in Australia. We do that so often. We've got so many mums who own businesses that they set this password up because they love their kids. Kids' names are not a place for passwords. Just not. Passwords are not where your kids' names go. Please leave them out of that. You need to change that. And using the same password everywhere is a massive problem where you're using it on your email. It's the same one you're using on your Facebook, as your Instagram, as your LinkedIn, as your Google My Business, as your bank account. Using that same password everywhere is really asking for trouble, because they will try multiple places to get into multiple systems to get the biggest impact they possibly can out of the breach that they've managed to be able to get in. They get into one thing, you can guarantee they're going to try and get into other things as well. Your previous data breaches, that is the link again, if you want to look at it. It's like have I been owned, but they replaced the O with a P. So it's pronounced have I been pwned. It's a very old internet joke of how people tend to misspell things online. It shows if your email address has been shown in a data breach anywhere in the world in the last 10 years. Really handy for that, because it gives you an idea that says, if I'm in there, I need to change my password on absolutely everything that uses that particular email address as the login right now, immediately, no delay. Make sure you change that password. This is, as I said, I go in here weekly. Now, just about every week, there's nothing in there. There's nothing new in there for me to learn. But sometimes something new will pop up, and they're usually an American company or a loyalty program with an Australian company, or it could be a data breach that's happened in a doctor's surgery system, which is not one doctor's surgery, but the system that they use, or a credit checking system in Australia or America can be where these have shown up. If you show up in those, you need to change your password straight away. Even if this breach happened in 2016, they haven't used that against you yet. They eventually will when they find another data breach that delivers the password straight along to them as well. Using multi-factor authentication is, like I was talking about before, the text messages, the authenticator apps. Your phone number is a really good method as a backup. So it'll send your phone an SMS to say, do you approve of this? Here's the code to put in. And you put in the code, and it's that one extra step that's added on to just the username and password. Is it annoying? Is it inconvenient? Absolutely, yes. It will slow you down by an extra 15 seconds. Oh my goodness, the world won't crumble with 15 seconds of extra wait. A second email address is another way that can often do this. So you don't just log in with your normal email address. It then goes with a code that goes to another email address. Now, this is not the very best method out there, because often if they're into one of your email addresses, they're probably into the other one as well. So you want to, with your multi-factors, with your multi-ways of authenticating, make sure you're in more than one place. So not just email, not just phone, but maybe a bit of email, a bit of phone, and a bit of this third one, which is called an authenticator app. Now, I don't know if you've got Google Authenticator or LastPass Authenticator, or you may have something like Facebook Authenticator. They've got their own one, as does Microsoft. They've got an Authenticator app as well. And these Authenticator apps, what they can do, you scan like a QR code that's on your screen, you scan it with your phone, and it says, okay, now I'm authorized to be one of the authenticators for this particular program or this site or this service. Then what it will do is go, what's your username? Yep. What's your password? Yep. Okay. Now put in the code that shows on your Authenticator app. And that's a much, much safer way to do it because it's only available through one mobile phone. The only way that someone will be able to get control of that is if they had your phone and were able to get into your phone, which is incredibly rare because, let's face it, the hackers aren't running around trying to steal your handbag. They're sitting in their basements or in their bedrooms and they're playing laptop computers trying to hack that way. Or they're automated processes that can't exactly leave their computer to go and mug you to get your handbag. So how do you secure yourself with all this? I think you've got an idea of doing all those things, right? Well, the first thing to do is to use something like a password manager to change all your passwords immediately to something a lot more secure than what it is. If you've got your kids in your password, you've got your dog in your password, you've got anything that's identifiable by something that's on your desk or something that can be looked at on any of your social media profiles publicly, that someone has learned about you just by simply reading your profile, then that needs to be gotten rid of. It can be nothing to do with you or your life. It has to be something really kind of stupid. A secure password is something like that one I'm showing on screen right now with the, you don't necessarily have to remember all of that, or you can do a version of that you will remember. But this one password is only to get into something like a password manager, something like LastPass or OnePass or KeePass. Any of those systems, they are free to start with. You don't have to pay a lot to get them. I pay the premium because to me, it's absolutely worth it. And it costs me something like $36 a year. So for me, for a little peace of mind, it's an amazing thing because I want a different password, a complex 12 to 16, even 64 character password I want on every different thing that I log into. I do not want any multiple. I don't want that one password to be on any other system that I use. I want every single system to have a different password all of its own so that I'm not then worrying about that password being read in some kind of cybersecurity breach. So by setting secure passwords, you don't have to remember all these passwords for all these sites because a password manager like LastPass will do it for you. LastPass you can attach to your web browser, so it then does all the logging in for you and it remembers the passwords for you. It even has a little generator that will generate the new secure passwords for the new sites that you want to sign up for. So much more easy to do that. You just remember one very secure password of your own, and then that will get you into all the other passwords. Now, yes, is that giving the keys to the kingdom to one person to do that? Absolutely. But you just don't use your normal email address. Use another email address and one very secure password that you can remember or that you will remember. Don't write it on a sticky note and put it on your screen, for goodness sake. Then that will give you one place to remember all these other passwords everywhere. And it's also incredibly difficult for a hacker to get into LastPass or those other systems like it, like OnePass and KeePass, because they're set up in such a way that it will question everything you do. It's also got a fun little feature in it, which is, I wouldn't say fun, but let's just say I died tomorrow. It will then allow a person to, an approved person who I've already put in there as my approved person, who will be able to then be able to get into my password vault to be able to undo my life pretty much online and all these other places within 14 days. So if I don't respond within 14 days of that requested that approved person to LastPass, and that person knows who they are. I've advised them of who they are, just in case something happens, they know that they can get into all that. Then that person then has access through LastPass approved after 14 days of not hearing back from me, which really helps in a very nasty environment where, you've got mourning going on. The pressure and the stress that people get under when they're trying to chase down passwords to electricity accounts, passwords to Facebook accounts that they want to put into memorial status, anything like that can be very, very stressful. This takes some of that stress away. And it allows you to have different passwords for each little thing. I've got Canva, Google, LinkedIn, and Apple as examples there. So each one of those things I can have a different password for that's all managed within my password manager. If there's one thing you walk away with today that will probably fix nearly 95% of your cybersecurity issues, it would be a password manager like this that will be able to handle all your passwords for you. And the best thing is that that can be installed on your phone, whether it's an Apple phone, a Mac computer, a PC computer, an iPad, a tablet, an Android phone like I've got. That can be installed in all of those and manage your passwords for you really securely on all your devices. So you don't have to ever be typing in a 64 character password into an iPhone. It will allow you to copy and paste it in directly from LastPass on your iPhone into the field of Safari or Chrome or whatever you're using to browse the web on your mobile. And it works on apps as well. So it's a really good tool to get, and it is free. There's no excuse. Go and get it, because it is a great tool and it will save you a lot. Because if you don't have the same username and password combination on every single thing you've signed up for, you have reduced your cybersecurity risk by a factor of about 500. It makes such a massive difference to your security level. Securing your social media accounts is probably the next thing you need to do. You need to check that the phone number that's in your social media account. So let's think about Facebook here. You go in your settings, your privacy settings, and you'll be able to see that there's a particular phone number and a particular email address that are both attached to your account. Now, I had a job for 13 and a half years where I had the same mobile number for that whole entire time from that particular job. When I left that job, I did not change that out of my account. Thankfully, nothing happened in that particular time when I left that I had to then be caught out with not being able to change the phone number in that account. I was able to add a new account, a phone number onto it and a new email address onto it, and I was fine to be able to get in there. But that's not always the case. You may not have the luxury of being able to do that. Now, someone would say, well, why would you be so stupid to put a work phone and a work email address into a personal Facebook account anyway? Yeah, it's true. That was a pretty dumb thing for me to do. But having multiple points of entry, multiple email addresses, multiple phone numbers, if you've got them, to be able to verify through. I've got 3 different phone numbers here for 3 different contracts. All 3 of those are points of contact for Facebook account. Just in case I get one locked out, I can get in through another one. It's a little bit of overprotection in my case, but hell, I've got hundreds of thousands of dollars of advertising going through my Facebook account right now. So I don't really want to mess that up for my clients. And I want to make sure that everything remains safe. Setting your phone number as a login authenticator and saying that nobody can log into my account, including me, without first verifying it with a code through my phone or through an authenticator app, really secures that account so much. If you only set checking the validity of a login through an email address, remember that over 90% of the access of all of these happen because the hacker got into your email first. And that's how it usually happens. In the vast majority of cases, they get hold of your email username and password first. So then they can use that to authenticate access to other things. They can get into your email, they can then get into almost anything. But if you've got that extra factor of authentication, such as the authenticator apps, the Google Authenticator on your phone, or your phone number for sending SMSs at the very least, then that's one step that they can't authenticate through. If they can't get through that step, they cannot get any further. They can't get into your stuff. That's your email, Google's, if you're using Gmail or Outlook, both of these, like the online version of Outlook, both of these will allow you to do this. You may find if you're using your own email through a system that isn't connected to a cloud service, such as using the email created through your web hosting, you might not be able to have that luxury. But if you add that level of authentication through that, having a phone number or an authenticator app in that mix, just for your social media accounts, if not your email, then you're taking a big step towards making everything much safer for you. If they cannot do things by just simply having an email sent to your email address, then you've already cut down your risk by a massive factor. You're not then opening the keys to the kingdom in that just simple one place where they can get hold of it. And then you need to check who else has access to your stuff. And in a lot of cases of businesses, a lot of people have access to our stuff. Who else is an administrator on your Facebook page? They're a risk factor because you're not only just checking on your own cyber hygiene, you're only just protecting your own access to your own email, but you're now having to also check on their email because they've got access to stuff that can really mess up your business and mess up your profile and mess up your reputation if someone hacks into them, because they've got access to your keys to that particular part of your kingdom. Now, it won't give them access to everything, but it will give them access to your Facebook page. When they go into your Facebook page and they make themselves an administrator, they can wipe you off as an administrator. And that's a really big deal because they can wipe you off or even just change you from being an administrator and putting you down to being an editor. You can't remove them. You can't actually bring that back again. And even if they remove themselves as an administrator from that account, you're stuck in editor status. You'll never be able to get into that again. And to be honest, there's not a lot of cases where Facebook can turn that around because the person has gone in and literally done this as you. They promoted that extra person, that hacker person, as an administrator using your username and password, your legitimately used login details. This is why we say that having your Facebook account or your Instagram account or your LinkedIn account is not Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn's fault that's been hacked. It's actually yours because it's your username and email that was used in a correct combination as if it was you. But if you put an extra step in front of that, that reduces it almost down to zero, that they cannot get through those authentication steps through your phone unless they've physically got your phone right in front of them and they're able to access it, or through an authenticator app, and it's the same thing. And that's just not going to happen. You also have to look at who else has access to your Facebook ads account. Now, this is often through the business manager side of it. So this is a little bit more complicated. It's a little bit more behind the scenes. It's not in, say, for instance, the most obvious place, which is in the settings of your page. This is in your ads account. This is where money can be racked up. And you can have thousands and thousands of dollars racked up in your name. And it's crazy how bad that can get. And also, who else has the details to log into your email? Quite often we go, oh, the missus also has that, and my 14-year-old son has that, and our apprentice has that, and all these people. And before you check it, there's a whole lot of people who are accessing your email at any point in time. Now, if they're using those same details to get into anything else and something is hacked, then they are an additional danger. They're an additional, what we call a vector, coming in to take over your account. And if you've got someone taking over your account to that degree, what you're going to find is that they can then get the keys to the kingdom to find out everything else through the email that they've got access to. You may never see that email come in that's going to take everything over, but the other person who has access to your email, be it your son, your daughter, your friend, your wife, your husband, anything like that, that can be done before you even notice it. You may never ever see that email, but they might be able to do it. And the danger of there, of course, is if there's emails coming in that are dodgy, if there's emails that are coming in that are not legitimate, and they're, people pretending to be someone else, and they've got lots of details in that email, like click this link to go and verify your account. It just takes your apprentice or your staff member or your son or your daughter or your mum or your uncle to do that, who's got access to your email, and you are screwed. So you got to make sure that when there's people who have access to your Facebook ads account, to your Facebook page, to your email, that you've got to make sure that not only you are being secure, but also they have to be secure. And the more people who have access, the more danger you could be in. I'm not saying don't give people access. That's actually definitely not what I'm saying. I would just say that making sure that you don't necessarily add everybody to your account as an admin on the page. Just have them as an editor on the page, because they can't remove anybody. So if they're going in through some other way, not through you, they're not able to remove you as the admin of your page here. The same thing with a Facebook ads account. You just make sure that you don't add people as an administrator of your Facebook ads account, just as an analyst or as an agency, for instance, not as an admin, because when they're an admin, they can make changes to the account, they can kick you out, and they can just run rampant and spend whatever they want. And who else has the login details to your email? Well, I would say probably nobody should have access to your email, except maybe one trusted person, but that very trusted person has to be extremely trusted and be someone who's perhaps your IT person, if you're an IT person, someone who you know for a fact has incredibly tight security, and they make sure they use things like LastPass to hold their passwords rather than just having it on a piece of paper that sits on the back of a business card that sits up on the corner of their monitor there. You don't want that. It's such a danger. So how do you then secure those other people? Because we've now gone, well, we know what can go wrong. We've been able to look at how we can secure our own position on there, but how do we now secure the rest of the people who do have access to our stuff? When someone else has admin access to your Facebook business page, anyone who hacks them can remove your access to your Facebook page at absolutely any time. Now, I've already said this before. This is probably the one thing that so many of us get caught up in, is losing access to our Facebook page. Just remember that if someone's got admin access to your Facebook page, they're also able to remove you as an admin on that Facebook page, whether it's them or whether it's a hacker who's using their details to do that with. When someone else has access to your ads account, anybody who hacks in as them can run ads and rack up costs in your name. And there's not a lot of return for that. If they spend $700 on your ads and those ads are legitimate for a product that won't be banned by Facebook, it doesn't matter that you say, no, that wasn't me, because as far as it's like a he said, she said kind of situation. Facebook will go, well, your username and email address were used. It was valid and it was authenticated. How can you prove that it wasn't you? So it's one of those things where it's a very dangerous thing to get people to have access to your ads account who are not adequately preventing themselves from being hacked. They're not adequately protecting their email account from being hacked. They don't have multi-factor or two-factor authentication plugged into their own Facebook profile. So even if you've done all those things for yourself, they have to do it for themselves as well. So they're then able to make sure that you're safe, they're safe. The chances of anyone getting in there is so remote that it's basically non-existent. And finally, whenever you hand over the keys to your social media, email, or anything else to anyone else, you're relying on them to be cyber secure. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't have a lot of friends who are cyber secure. They don't think about these things. In fact, I would safely say that 90% of people in Australia today don't think about cyber security. For them, it's a username and a password, and it's an annoying thing when they have to put it in. So they'll have the one password they know they'll always remember because it's so common to them and they know it so well. Just about all of us will follow the path of least resistance. We'll follow that path which feels really easy for us to operate in and super easy for us to remember. The problem is that easy path for us is an easy path for everybody else as well. If you're using a very easy to guess password, it will be very easily guessed by someone else. Remember that if someone has the keys to your social media or email, you're relying on them to also be as secure as you are being. So it makes you think, who else has got access to all my stuff? Who else has all the passwords that I could possibly have? Is their email secure? Have they used a good, strong password or a second factor of authentication with their email? You have the right to ask a staff member this. If they're accessing things with their own personal email, even if it's a work email that you provide them, have they got a decent enough password, and have they got that second factor authentication so that it can't just be hijacked? Is their social media secure? So if they're doing things on your behalf in Facebook and Instagram, are they using passwords in a strong way, or a multi-factor authentication place? Are they using like a phone as a backup for that? Are they using an authenticator app on their phone as a backup to that? Or are they just simply entering a username and a password and off they go? Do you and they have cybersecurity insurance? Now, if they're staff of yours, they should be covered by your own cybersecurity insurance. But let's face it, insurance is not going to fix the problem. It's there to basically compensate you for the inconvenience of going through that lost business. But if you're dealing with contractors who are doing these things with you, I expect that my clients will ask me, do you have public liability? Do you have professional indemnity insurance, and finally, do you have cybersecurity insurance? I have got the usernames and passwords for literally dozens of clients over the years sitting in my LastPass. Now, I practice incredible cyber hygiene these days because I've been burnt before. But if that fails, do I have the insurance to cover that? Will they be compensated financially if I mess up? So I've got to make sure that I've got current public liability insurance for the things I do live, professional indemnity insurance for the things that I advise people to do that don't work, and finally, cybersecurity insurance. So I'm protecting my cybersecurity and I'm protecting the cyber footprint of my clients as well. And if they don't have these things, please do not hire any kind of contractor who doesn't have this in place, because if they don't know that they should have this, then they're probably not that cyber secure and they're not going to look after your details in a very secure way. And of course, that professional indemnity insurance too covers when they're giving you advice in such areas that may be somehow compromised in a cybersecurity incident. So the takeaways, this has been a really quick one tonight, but it's got so much important stuff in there for you. The takeaways are to use very secure passwords all the time. Don't use the same password for every single thing that you do, because you will get caught out. Make sure your email, number 2, is secure, that you're using a specific password for that, and that when you go to log into your email, it doesn't just automatically log you in every day. It actually forces you to put in a username and a password that's backed up with authentication. Preferably it goes through your phone. So whether that is an SMS that goes to your phone with a code that you enter in to approve that login, or it uses something like the Google Authenticator app, which then is tied to your phone as well. There was a problem with the Google Authenticator app there for a while where it was stuck on your phone. If you got a new phone, the authenticator didn't come with you and then you'd be in trouble. Now you can transfer it from one phone to the other, but you do have to set it up on the new phone first before you get rid of the old phone. So make sure it's the very first thing you do when you get a new phone, that you can set it up on the new one over Wi-Fi before you take the SIM out and put it into your new phone. Use multi-factor authentication and turn it on. We're talking about those authenticator apps. We're talking about making sure that everything that you can possibly do multi-factor authentication with is done through approving it through the phone or approving it through an authenticator app. There's no safer way of operating than doing exactly that. And then also make sure that you secure your people, secure them as well as yourself. So hopefully, if you ever do have these problems, that you will have all the things in place that will stop this from ever happening to you. Got a great little comment here saying that FAR had 2-factor authentication and regularly changed your passwords and account. Your business manager accounts were compromised and they got in and removed you as an admin on the accounts that you manage. Such a common story. So far, all the funds you were stolen were refunded. That is so good to hear. Well done. Now, how can I now run ads on my Facebook pages? Can I link my new business manager page to an existing business pages? Yes, you can. And can I ever again regain admin rights to pages? Most likely not. You cannot retain your admin rights to pages again once they've been removed. It's a very unusual thing where it happens. I've only seen it once in the last 3 or 4 years where it actually has been able to be turned around. But once you've lost those admin rights to the pages by another admin that was on that page, you're gone. You are out. Your profile is still banned to run ads as much as you were the victim. You've appealed and resent your identity particulars of what you do now. Yeah, this is a really hard one. This is what I read every single week. If that ad account is banned, it's time to set up a new ad account. And if I was you, I'd actually be going as far as, since your ad account was banned, you had funds that had to be refunded, you've had Facebook pages removed as well. What I had to do in 2018 is I had to set up a brand new Facebook account from scratch. Then I had to create brand new business pages from scratch. I know it's pretty severe. And then brand new ads accounts with those from scratch. But you cannot sit down there and do it all in one step. You have to do one thing at a time. Set up your new Facebook profile on day one. Come back a couple of days later, set up a Facebook page that you are now the admin of. Couple of days later, come back in, set up an ads account and attempt to run your first boost. Now, in my case, I couldn't even use the credit card that I'd used before because the black mark had been put against not just my profile, not just my pages, not just my ad account, my business manager, but also my credit card number. I couldn't even use that credit card number with Facebook ever again. So I had to use a different credit card. I had to go and get one of those Australia Post load up cards, the reloadable ones, to be able to do this. It's a nasty, horrible thing to go through. The problem is that when these things are done, these hacks are done, they're done through getting through either your own access and doing what looks like a legitimate transaction, or in your case, it was all done through your business manager, through other people that had access to those. So that's a horrible thing to go through. And I wish there was a much better news story at the end of that. There's not, which is why I guess we got this particular webinar on, is to help prevent this from happening to other people again. I suppose, thank you so much for sharing the story that you had there, because that is heartbreaking. It really is. And I remember how stressful it was for me. On the funny side of it, it happened literally half an hour before I was going on stage in front of 70 people to present how to use Facebook ads. So my Facebook ads account was banned as I was about to go on stage and present how to use Facebook ads. I laugh at it now. At the time, it was very stressful. But I have recovered. That was 2017. 3 years later, it probably only took me maybe about 3 months to regain everything I'd lost. And as I was able to go and create these new pages, I was able to then mark off those old pages I no longer had access to as being fake pages. And I was able to then go ahead with my new pages as the legitimate pages. Hence why it's so important to make sure that the people around you who have access to your stuff through Business Manager, through ads accounts, have also got some great cybersecurity in place. And that may take you to be the one who needs to train them. A bit hard though, if you're dealing with people offshore, dealing with people in remote locations, that could be a little difficult, but it is so, so very, very important. To find out more about the whole cybersecurity thing, or if you've been hacked, or if you've got a cybercrime that you believe has come against you, your first port of call is the Australian Cybersecurity Centre. I would do that even before I went to Facebook. Go straight to the acsc.gov.au website. There's a report a cybercrime button there. They may even ask you to put in a police report. If it's a cybercrime and people have accessed things they shouldn't be accessing to, and there are stolen funds involved, so in your case, there was definitely stolen funds in there, report it to the police as well. So the police report can be put into the Australian Cybersecurity Centre, and make no mistake, these things are crimes. So they get treated like someone breaking into your house. So they're breaking into your Facebook account. That is a cybercrime and it needs to be reported. There are other cyber security webinars coming up in the new year through the ASBAS Digital Solutions Program. We've got quite a few decent cybersecurity people on board, and we're doing a lot of that stuff in the new year. So businessstation.com.au/programs/ASBAS is the place to go for that. And you can always send me an email too, and I can sort of help point you in the right direction. If I can't necessarily fix the problem for you, my email address is on the screen as well, dante@treaty.com.au. So I've finished up a little bit early. This has been a pretty good one. Thank you so much for your patience with getting through this. Cybersecurity is not the most exciting topic. It's certainly very dry, but as you've seen, this has affected a lot of people. Someone on this very presentation has had this happen to them. And I showed you 2 examples of other people who've gone through this, including myself, who has lost money, lost time, lost effort, lost all my family photos from a period of my life that I wish I had those photos from. So these things can happen, but they can just as easily be avoided just by putting into place a little bit of patience and making sure you're doing those right cybersecurity things. If you'd like to watch this again, it will be available on YouTube a little bit later tonight through my channel, Dante St James. Just search me on YouTube, or through the Business Station channel on YouTube in the next 2 days. Thank you so much for joining me. You have a great night, and I hope to see you again soon.